Welcome, and thanks for joining us for this live question and answer session about the proposed replacement plan for special assessments in the city of Oshkosh. I'm Andy Radig, and in a moment we'll be joined by City Manager Mark Rohloff. In this session, we'll be explaining the proposed special assessment replacement plan and how it works, and we'll answer some questions that are submitted through Facebook Live or by email. If you would like to submit a question, please send it to vrfcomments@oshkoshwi.gov, and we'll answer as many as our time will allow for today. We'll also encourage you to watch the recent public information meeting that was held at City Hall, which was recorded and is available on the Oshkosh Media YouTube page, as well as on the Oshkosh Media Gov TV channel. With that, we bring in our City Manager, Mark Rohloff. Thanks for joining us. And Mark, if you can give us a little bit of background about special assessments.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for having me. This has been an issue that the City Council has wrestled with for over 10 years now. At many of our public hearings, when we have road reconstruction projects where the public is noticed about a pending special assessment, we've heard from many residents who talk about the burden that it places on them for these large assessments that hit them all at once. While we do have a payment plan, even stretching that out over 10 or 15 years has a significant impact because it gets added on top of somebody's property tax bill, which are significant enough. So that part of that is council looking for a solution to replace special assessments. And this is about the ones just for road reconstruction. So there have been multiple ideas submitted. 5 years ago, the council came very close to having one solution, but ultimately decided against that. And they've been going back and forth trying to narrow down the different options. I would say that if anybody has a question, have you considered this or that? I would say probably the council has, but as time went on, looking at the various pros and cons to each proposal and each idea, narrowing it down to the proposal we have today. But I think it's important to talk about the costs of special assessments and how they've risen in recent years. And I believe we have a graphic that we can demonstrate this. This goes back from 2008 up to 2023. So over a period of 15 years, you can see that the cost has gone up about 150% over that time. And the amounts you see there are just for a 60-foot wide lot on a 32-foot wide street. And that's the general residential charge for that. But you can see that the cost has gone up considerably, even more so in the last 5 years. So that's something that the council has been struggling with. And because special assessments are charged to adjoining property owners, the property owners who have had streets done see this going on. If you're in a relatively new neighborhood or your street was done, in the past, you may not necessarily have experienced that, but it is a pretty sizable amount. And that $7,400, that's just for the street paving. That does not include sidewalk, and that's proposed to be covered with this fee as well. And then, of course, utility laterals that often need to get replaced when the road is redone. Laterals are those parts of the utility that go from the main to your property. So, and we charge that directly to those property owners, and that's not included either. But when you add that on top of everything else, it is not unusual to have a special assessment of $8,000 to $10,000. And then a couple years ago, we had much wider lots than the 60-foot average that we show here, and there were special assessments that were actually $20,000 or more. So the cumulative effect that inflation has had has caused this. So what we're proposing is a combination of funding methods to replace special assessments. So it's really one funding source with another funding source. And it's proposed to be a vehicle registration fee of $35 per vehicle and a charge to each of the individual utilities, our water utility, sanitary sewer utility, and our stormwater utility, of $750,000 each year that would go into the fund. We're trying to raise $3.75 million. We're hoping to raise $1.5 million from the vehicle registration fee, and then $2.25 million from the combination of all three utilities. So I think we have a graphic that also shows you where that is. It's about 42% would come from the vehicle registration fee, and the transfer from the three utilities would take care of the balance. But the real point here is that we would eliminate these large single special assessments that hit somebody not very frequently, but when it does, the economic impact is significant. So those are mainly the things that I wanted to talk about today. I know with our other informational sessions we've had a lot of questions, and we certainly want the public to chime in on questions now, and we have gotten some questions more often than not. And so, I really like to spend the balance of this time to hear your input in your questions that we can answer for you, because this is really about you becoming a more informed citizenry so you can provide input to the City Council.
Yes, and please submit those comments and questions to our email or on Facebook Live. Please place a comment there. The email is vrfcomments@oshkoshwi.gov, and we will get to those as quick as we can here. So, Mark, you explained a little bit about the mechanics of how this plan works, and now this plan covers pavement-related special assessments and road reconstruction, sidewalk replacement. Are there items that are not covered through this plan?
Yes, there are other items that we will continue to special assess for. These are not ones that you may not necessarily get noticed on. For example, brand new developments or new utility construction. I'm talking about brand new, first of its kind in that area. New utility construction and new developments will continue to be special assessed. And the idea behind that is that those new developments have to pay for the first time to get into the use of our utilities. If you've been a utility customer for a number of years, you've already bought into the system. So this is about your way to buy into the system. So it's just appropriate that those charges get continued. And then we kind of follow the lead of what we do with the Public Service Commission with water. We're only regulated for water by the Public Service Commission, but the Public Service Commission does not allow us to use regular utility funds to fund a lateral improvement. And again, the lateral is that part that goes from the main that goes down the middle of the street to your property. And so there's water laterals, there's sanitary sewer laterals, and there's storm sewer laterals. Those laterals we charge, and we will continue to charge for those because they benefit your specific property and nobody else's. So I know there's a question, do we have to do it that way? We don't have to. Public Service only tells us that we can't use water utility revenues to cover your personal property. There are other ways to do it, but we're going to continue to do it this way because this seems to be the most fair way to do it.
Okay, and perhaps a nuance on what you just explained is a question did come in asking if this new plan would replace all special assessments or just a certain percentage. So I guess what I would say is with regard to the road construction part and the sidewalk replacement piece of it, are those funded completely by this new plan, or is there still a percentage there that the resident would need to pay?
This new fee construct would eliminate the special assessments for road reconstruction and sidewalks. So we would eliminate those. And even the annual sidewalk rehabilitation program that we have. A lot of people may not know, we go through the entire city every 10 years, and we do about 2,000 properties get special assessed for sidewalk improvements, totally separate from the road reconstruction. And so the idea would be we would eliminate those as well. And we also actually do some driveway aprons as well. Those will all be covered with this new fee, so you'll no longer be special assessed for those improvements that are needed.
Okay, all right, very good. A question did come in about whether this would impact the amount of streets, how many streets would be reconstructed, and the timing of that. So once this new plan is enacted, will we see more CIP money directed toward road reconstruction, less, or?
This does not assume any additional roads to be done. We budget our capital improvements program to get a certain amount of roads done every year. We have a limit based on, we have some limits that we want to achieve from a borrowing standpoint. So we can only borrow so much anyway. So this does not anticipate any additional or less road reconstruction. That would be a separate decision by council. That could potentially impact this, but it would also impact our borrowing that we're trying to limit. So I don't anticipate that. The council ramped it up about 15 years ago, shortly after I arrived. That was something that the council asked me to do, and we have ramped it up, but we've kept it pretty consistent since then, and this is not intended to do extra. Extra would cost more, and I think council realizes there's only so much we can ask the taxpayers and ratepayers to absorb at any one time.
Sure. Okay. Well, you had mentioned also about the component of the vehicle registration fee component of this, and that fee would not go into effect immediely. So we're looking at July 1st or later. Then the remainder, the balance of the year would be made up for in some other way.
Right. The DOT, the Department of Transportation, they are actually going to administer the vehicle registration fee. We pay them a small cut of that $35, about 17 cents per vehicle, and they will administer it for us. But they need about 3 months of lead time. If you recall, when you get your vehicle registration notice in the mail, they probably do it about 2 months before it's due to give you time to pay that. So the idea behind it is they're going to need at least 3 months to get that system in place. So we're being careful not to count this money too soon. So we're anticipating we wouldn't start collecting and receiving the funds until July of this year. So we will have a shortfall for 2024, and the city will make up for that with just some general borrowing to bridge us to that point. But the idea is once it starts, it'll be every month. So if you have a registration that's due in June, you're probably not going to pay this fee. I know people have just started paying the registration fee. Those registrations go throughout the year, depending on when you purchased your car, things like that. So you'll get your notice, but you don't have to do anything other than pay what's on the bill. Once it starts showing up, I'm sure we'll get calls because people will be curious about it. Not everybody's listening to this broadcast today, so we know that not everybody's going to know about it, and we'll have to be probably still answering these very same questions when people start getting their bills, but they're probably not going to get their July bill until probably around May. So you might start seeing it then, but we're not going to start receiving the revenue until July.
Okay, all right. Well, another point of clarification, we talked a little bit about sidewalks, and we've had a sidewalk rehabilitation program where every 10 years staff go through and identify those sidewalk squares that need to be repaired or replaced. So are sidewalks included in this program?
Sidewalks are included in this program, and that was something staff also was very much in favor of that, because we special assess or charge over 2,000 properties annually just for our sidewalks. And quite honestly, it's administratively burdensome. And we know that property owners get a little concerned when the paint starts showing up, because we take months and months of advance notice, and then we double check it, and actually before we go out there we triple check it. So before we do the sidewalk, we want to make sure that it meets the qualifications, because we've been charging people for that. And sometimes people say, well, it's just a temporary lift in the sidewalk, and we do it based on how much the sidewalk gets displaced, and if it gets displaced too much, we have to replace that out of safety for the public. So we check it like 3 times. So we will still be checking it, but we won't be checking it to charge the resident. We'll be checking it to make sure that it absolutely needs it. And that's what it's going to be based on it's not going to be based on somebody's ability to pay. It's going to be based on our belief that it needs to be replaced for public safety.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that clarification. We had another question come in through Facebook. Somebody is asking how this decision would be made to approve this plan and if there would be a referendum on this.
Yeah, this is not something that is subject to a referendum. The state requires that for a vehicle registration fee that an ordinance be adopted, and that would be the process. The council will have the first reading of this on February 13th, but they don't take action immediately. They will not take, the earliest they would take final action would be February 27th. Mm-hmm. So part of the idea of this program that we're doing with you is for you to learn as much as you can. We want you to have an informed opinion, and then you can certainly let the council know, or you can email your questions and your comments to vrfcomments@oshkoshwi.gov, and we're going to share these pieces of input with the council, because council wants to know what the community's hearing and feeling as well. So it may not be subject to referendum, but it is subject to this process of 2 notices, so that the public has ample opportunity to weigh in on this. And as far as the utilities go, the council makes that decision as well. And really, what they're saying is they're willing to charge the utilities for their share of digging up the road to lay the new mains pipe that may need to be needed for each of the utilities, and then the utilities will reimburse the city's capital fund for the work that it does.
Okay, and kind of on the coattails of that comment, we talked a little bit about the utility fees. Could you give us a little bit more detail about what the impact is for ratepayers of the utilities? Right.
Right now, we are estimating that the impact would be about 0.25% to 0.5%. So if you have a $100 utility bill, it would increase your monthly cost from anywhere from 25 to 50 cents. And that's going to vary depending on how big of a water user you are versus how large your lot is and what stormwater fee you pay. And that also vary by business. The example I'm using is a very simple, if you have a $100 bill, and I think you can do the math and figure it out. If your bill is a little less or a little more than $100, you'll be able to get a rough idea of what it would be.
Okay, all right. Another question just came in from Facebook, and this gets into road maintenance a little bit more. Will this new revenue source be used to fix roads in terms of filling potholes and that sort of maintenance?
Well, a little bit, yes. So let me explain that. Again, we had a question earlier that I thought was great, and I think this is kind of a follow-up to that, is are we going to do any more maintenance? And the answer is no, we're not going to do any more maintenance than we currently program. But we do have what's called a hot mix program. And usually that is something that extends the life of a road for like 5 to 10 years. Sometimes we can get as much as 15 years out of a good hot mix patch. We currently special assess for that. It's not anywhere near the numbers that I've told you about, but it is part of our road reconstruction program. So we would eliminate those special assessments as well. Generally, those are areas that only have asphalt. Most of our roads are concrete. So patching, it's not going to increase the amount of patching, but I would say that it would help free up our staff to be able to do more of that, because they're not going to be running around working on special assessments, because we will have eliminated those. So it'll free up a little bit of time, but for those of you who have gotten charged for an asphalt overlay, it will also eliminate that.
Okay, all right. Well, we had a couple of questions come in here, one via email and one by Facebook Live that actually connect. One question is, if your street is scheduled for reconstruction this year, 2024, will it be covered if this new plan is enacted? And also, on the flip side, will it be possible to defer the vehicle registration fee for those who were recently assessed?
Okay, two different questions. So the special assessment relief will take effect for projects that begin on or after January 1st, 2024. So the answer is yes, if you have a project scheduled for this year. A couple that come off the top of my head, Wagoo is due to be done this year. I'm aware of that. And Cherry Street is due to be done. So I know there may be a couple others. I just don't have them memorized here. But those would be no longer special assessed. Mm-hmm. Now, for the people who the question regarding I've already paid a vehicle, right, or I've already paid special assessments, or you have yet to be billed for a project that happened in 2023 or 2022. Unfortunately, the question being asked is, can we relieve you of the fee? We can only give the Department of Transportation our full authorization to charge every vehicle. We can't pick and choose which vehicles we do or don't do. That's something to be uniform about. And the council made the difficult decision that if we're going to do this, we can't retroactively go back and do any reimbursements, because some people have already paid them. Some people are paying it through the payment plan, but we're going to be unable to refund previously paid special assessments. And similarly to that question, we can't defer or reduce the vehicle registration fee, because we can only say state charge $35 a vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Another question that was asked is if the current gas tax that is charged, can this be used for road reconstruction?
Well, short answer is it already is being used. We get about $3 million a year from the state for our cut of gas tax. It's called Aid for Local Roads. That pretty much covers our very limited maintenance budget that we have. And I think the person asking the question is probably like, well, I'd like to see the gas tax used for road maintenance. Well, it's used, but it's used, road maintenance is a very broad subject. That includes street plowing, snow plowing and things like that. Sure. It does include the minor patching, the pothole filling that the previous question brought up. So we already use it for that purpose. But remember, we have a streets division that over 30 people that we use for a variety of things, including roadside maintenance, pothole patching, street plowing, all of those things that go in over the course of the year. So we're already applying all of those funds to that very purpose that the question suggests.
Okay, just a quick plug. I just wanted to remind everyone that the informational materials are available on the city's website in the Hot Topics section, including frequently asked questions and a summary of the proposed special assessments replacement plan. Okay.
I would say I'm very encouraged because, we were concerned that we weren't going to get questions coming in from the listening or viewing audience. So I really do appreciate that you've got these questions. And again, VRF comments at oshkoshwi.gov. We're going to hang on as long as we keep getting questions in. But if after you've seen this, or if you're watching this on a tape delay, you can send those questions and comments in through that same email box, and we'll make sure that you get an answer, and we will share your question and the answers that we provide you with the City Council as they go through the process to review this. So I think that's the least we can do to help the Council be aware of what public input we are receiving.
Sure. We'll keep that flow of information going here. All right, another question is relating to property taxes and whether or not property taxes can be used to fund these types of improvements.
I would say the short answer is yes. We are about half the cities, and it's a broad statement, but about half the cities in the state use special assessments. The other half does use just property taxes. One of the unique things about Oshkosh is that we have a greater share of non-taxable property than a lot of other cities. Every city has tax-exempt properties like churches and things like that, and the schools, but we have a large presence from the state of Wisconsin, and that includes the university, the correctional institution, the resource center, Winnebago Mental Health Institute. We have a variety of properties that are tax exempt. If we put it all on the property taxes, then we would be unable to collect from those properties as well. And when we have special assessed, we special assess the non-taxable properties, including the university, so the state is paying a share of that. Without special assessments, if we only relied, for example, on the vehicle registration fee, the state is exempt from paying those, and they don't have as many vehicles that would help pay towards that. The idea of combining the vehicle registration fee, which is more residential based and small business based, and the utilities, which can cover a broader range. Even the university pays utility, even the prison pays utility fees, so they'll be paying a portion of it. It's only going to be 1/4 to 0.5% more on the utility bill, but they have much larger utility bills as well, so we'll be able to collect that. And in the combination that we've put together, that council's asked us to do, it really does help us spread that cost to all the beneficiaries, including non-taxable property. And that's part of the reason that we're doing it the way we're doing.
And you may have touched on this already, but a sales tax is not an option to replace special assessments.
No, it's not. First of all, I've talked about, we've looked at so many different options. And I've had suggestions over the past, and it gives me the opportunity to get on my stump that cities do not get a direct sales tax collection. So we've got all these great events that come to Oshkosh. We don't generate a bump in any revenue for the city when that happens. The state does, and they redistribute a portion of it, but we do not have a direct sales tax that goes directly to us. I don't mind the idea. I think it's a worthwhile point of discussion, but we are unable to levy a sales tax on our own, and the state will not authorize cities to do that. There are a couple exceptions to that, but we don't have that exemption.
Okay, all right. Another question came in. So we talked a little bit about the fact that the vehicle registration fee does not get put into place until July or thereafter. So could the same thing happen with regards to the utility portion of this?
No, the utility portion, because we have more direct control over that, we will charge the $750,000 to each of the utilities in 2024 and then every year thereafter. So no, we don't have that problem with that one. So but because the state administers the vehicle registration fee, and because of the bureaucracy, the timing it takes for them to implement it, they have to reprogram their computers, that they send out that card that you get with your vehicle registration fee. They have to have enough advance notice so that they know to charge Winnebago County, City of Oshkosh, this vehicle registration fee. They know to add that, so that takes a little more time. The utility part won't be a problem.
Okay. Question, is the vehicle registration fee the same as what has commonly been called a wheel tax?
Yes, it is. The wheel tax is sort of the unofficial nickname, but they're one and the same.
Okay, all right. And then along those lines as well, about the vehicle registration fee, how often could that be adjusted in the future based on how things go?
We took a look at what we needed to collect, and the amount we came up with was $3.75 million. That's an average that we've experienced over the last couple of years, with a little factor of inflation, because we have been hitting with inflation. So we believe that we can maintain this amount for a few years, but we'll have to evaluate it to make sure that we're getting adequate cash flow. One of the concerns I have with the vehicle registration fee is my observation throughout the state is that cities and counties are very reluctant to increase that, for very good reasons, for I'm sure a lot of reasons that people are against it in the first place. To increase it would be difficult. If we need more money, we'll have to look at increasing that fee, increasing the utility share, but there's a limit in how much we can increase the utility share as well. That's not to say we wouldn't look at a third option, but one of the things that I've expressed to council very clearly is that going back to special assessments would not be the way to go. If we're going to get rid of special assessments, we need to make a clean break and not look back on that and move forward. So if we have to come up with money elsewhere, we very well at that point may have to look at property taxes or additional borrowing, which is what we do now for the balance of the road reconstruction project. So we'll have to take a look at that. I know that was somebody asked me at one of our meetings, well, can you guarantee that the rate will never go up? I can't guarantee that any more than I can guarantee that special assessments won't go up. So if you can show slide 3 again, our folks in the back room, just give you an idea of what it's cost us. This is based on how much we bid our projects on, and look at the increase there. So I can't guarantee that special assessment won't rise because they have really taken off. The cost of oil, the cost of Portland cement, which is really what concrete is made with, those costs have gone up drastically over the last few years, and you can see how much it's gone up. And so we need to make sure that we have something that can absorb those hits that I think this question really is talking about. It's like, can you guarantee it won't go up? I cannot do that, but I can tell you that the staff is committed to limit those increases, and we do everything we can to find different things. I'm very proud of the fact that our staff gets these projects designed so that we can bid them out during the winter when contractors are a little more hungrier for work, and so they'll sharpen their pencils when they're putting in a bid, and we've had better success bidding these projects out in the winter time than if we wait until springtime.
Sure.
Then they're busy and the cost goes up, and that cost gets passed on to you and to all of us as taxpayers. So we're doing everything we can to keep those costs down. But even with those cost reduction measures, we still have that experience, and we've got to figure out a way to control that.
Okay, it's an ongoing project, I'm sure. Another Facebook question, Mark. For those who were recently assessed, if the city is unable to defer their vehicle registration fee, can their utility increases be deferred to provide some relief?
Well, I would say no, because similarly, our utility fees are based on a factor of fairness, and we generally try to follow what we do with our water utility rates, which are regulated by the State Public Service Commission. I just want to be clear, our sewer utilities, our sanitary sewer and our stormwater, they're not regulated by the Public Service Commission, but we generally follow their rules because oftentimes that standard's used. We can't arbitrarily say your rates are going down or your rates aren't going to increase as much as another person's rates. That creates a lack of uniformity. So the short answer is we can't do that. And I understand most of the people who have come to our meetings have been folks who have recently been special assessed or are very shortly going to receive their bills. And I have looked at what other communities have done, and when they've made this break, they've made the unfortunate decision that they can't do a look back, which is what this person is asking. We can't do that look back.
Okay, all right. Jumping back to the vehicle registration fee, a question is here regarding vehicles that weigh 8,000 pounds or more, and those would not be assessed this fee. Is that something that the city decided, or is that something that is coming from the state? I
had another question pop in, Andy, so I missed it. Could you just repeat the front end of that?
Absolutely, sure. So with the vehicle registration fee, anybody that has a vehicle that weighs over 8,000 pounds would not need to pay that fee. Is that something from the city, or is that from the state?
That is definitely a state thing. And like I said, each of these proposals has their pros and cons. And frankly, that's one of the very legitimate cons to using the vehicle registration fee. The state, and this goes back, way back in history, but the idea, some of the history of the vehicle registration fee, it started up, the city of Beloit wanted to figure out a way to get the Beloit college students to have to pay for the impact they were having on the roads. And so they were, I believe, the very first in the state that adopted the vehicle registration fee. So they just wanted to get the vehicles from the students. So 8,000 pounds was an easy limit. The state has not changed that rule in 60 years. So what's happened is nobody wants to change it, but the very vehicles that have the most impact on streets and I think that's the purpose of that person's question is that it's the big trucks that do that. So it's a built-in inequity, and I will admit that, but I think council also recognized that, and that's the reason that they combined the vehicle registration fee, which I believe is more focused on residential, and the utility base, which the businesses do pay a good portion of, particularly when you think of the stormwater utility. The businesses tend to pay a little more because they have more impervious surface, so they tend to pay a higher stormwater fee than residences do. So the idea is you put those together, they kind of help offset one another. But I would be more than happy if the state lifted the 8,000 pound restriction, but that's the rule book that we have to play by.
Okay, and Oshkosh is not alone in using a vehicle registration fee or proposing it.
No, in fact, there are about 38 communities right now that have a vehicle registration fee. Both cities and counties are allowed to do it. 8 of those municipalities are in northeast Wisconsin, and then 13 counties also enact it. There are some mostly down in the Madison and Milwaukee area where both the city and the county do it. The county here, Winnebago County, does not have a vehicle registration fee, so this would be the only fee. And you can see the range for the municipalities, the 38 that do it, range from $10 to $40. We'd be towards the high end, and here are some of the comparisons with communities that are generally comparable to us or at least close to us. I can tell you that of the list that you see there, both Appleton and Green Bay, they enacted their vehicle registration fee specifically to eliminate special assessments. And I think a good valid question that would come up from viewing that screen is, but Appleton and Green Bay are only charging $20. And they've acknowledged that they lowballed that number, and they found themselves having to pay more to provide special assessment relief, and they're revisiting that to either increase that or look at another funding alternative because they know it's insufficient. We're trying to raise $1.5 million through the vehicle registration fee, and I believe we can sustain that for a while. But we'll have to review it just like Appleton and Green Bay are reviewing it, and they know that that's woefully inadequate. We feel we've got it covered for a few years. Okay. All right. Very good. It sounds like maybe another question has come in. Yeah, and it had to do with the utilities because we've estimated about an impact of 0.25% to 0.5%, and the idea is, well, what about the utility rates for anything else? We annually do a cash flow projection for 10 years for each of our utilities. So we've identified where we feel that we're going to need some rate increases. So what we're talking about here is for the special assessments is only the impact to just do that. But we're doing the Clearwells project, which is going to have a significant impact on utility rates. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that by any stretch. We are under some rules and regs from the federal and state government that in our sanitary sewer utility, we have to adjust phosphorus. And we're going to have to invest probably $30 million or more just in our sewer plant. That will also have an impact on your sewer rates. My discussion with everybody here today is, what's the impact of this change on special assessments going to have on your utility bill? And that's where we came up with the 0.25 to 0.5. And it's your utility bill of, and I use the example of $100 a month. That's a combination of all your utilities. Your average will go up between 0.25% and 0.5%. Depending on do you use more water, do you use more, or do you have more impervious surface, you pay more on the stormwater utility. Depending on what the answer to that question is, that is going to vary. So you'll see a variation. You might even see a variation from next door neighbor to next door neighbor. But we're trying to give a general rule that you can estimate how it's going to impact you at home, because we want you to understand what the impact is going to be. But individual results may vary, I think they say in the commercials, and that's really the best I can tell you right now. Okay. Mark, just a review. So this new plan, just to revisit this, what sorts of things does this cover, and what sort of things are not covered? Well, the things that are covered are the road reconstruction costs. Brand new pavement, and sidewalk replacement, apron replacement. Those would be paid for with this new funding source. The annual sidewalk rehabilitation program would be funded. But the things that are not included are, and will continue, are special assessments for new developments and new utility construction, as well as the laterals that go from the water or sewer main in the street to your property. So those will continue to be part of special assessments. But for the people who are getting the $7,000 to $10,000 assessment for just road reconstruction, that will go away.
Okay.
And it looks like under the wire we got at least one more question. But I just want to let everybody know, after we go off the air on this, you can still send us questions and we'd be happy to answer them for you. But we have one more, and I certainly want to be able to do it since that person took the time to give us one.
Okay, we've got one more here. So can it be hard to know which vehicles are affected by a vehicle registration fee by weight alone? And tying in with that, does it apply to motorcycles? Does it apply to collector vehicles? And I know that there are a lot of rules from the state DOT regarding that.
Yeah, well, why don't you go into those, because I know you have that information handy.
Sure. Well, from the information that was provided, the vehicles that the vehicle registration fee does apply to are automobiles that are under 8,000 pounds, autocycles, and an autocycle is like a three-wheeled vehicle.
Right.
They're usually more of a recreational type of vehicle. And truck registration at 8,000 pounds or less, except dual-purpose farm registry.
Yeah, so the state knows if your vehicle's 8,000 pounds, and you can't put your vehicle on a diet to get out of it. So you're going to see that they've got some specific rules, but it says autocycles, but not motorcycles. So motorcycles wouldn't be covered by that, and that's the way the rule is. If you don't like motorcycles, do you think they should be charged? That's not something we have control over. Similarly, the vehicle's over 8,000 pounds, and trust me, the state knows how much your vehicle weighs, what category you're in. 8,000 pounds or over don't apply. Just full disclosure, I drive a Suburban. It's under 8,000 pounds. I'll be paying the fee, and you will too if you've got a light-duty pickup truck. That's going to be similar to like a Suburban.
Okay, and just another nuance here too. The person asked whether collector vehicles would be charged the vehicle registration fee, and those special plates are exempt from that fee. Collector plates, antique plates, however, collector special plates are not exempt. So it's another DOT question to double check exactly with the DOT on what the rules are with regards to that.
Yeah, that's a great question. If we did not already put into our frequently asked questions, we will do that, because that's a great question for somebody who has one of those types of vehicles. So thank you for that question. This is why we are doing this session, so that we can answer these questions. And we can't think of every question, but hopefully we can provide every answer to every question. So again, if something comes to mind, you're talking with your neighbor, family member, and some other question comes up, please let us know. We want to be able to give you as much information as possible. This is not a perfect solution. The council has weighed the various pros and cons of so many different options. They've settled on this because they feel it's the combination that is fairest to Oshkosh, and that may vary from one community to the next, but I think they've struggled with this issue for good 10 years now, and we've had turnovers with council, but one thing we haven't seen is a desire to maintain the special assessments. The council wants to eliminate those because they know about the inequities, so it really is a question of what do we turn to, and that's a very serious question for the council, and I think they've taken it seriously. They've been listening because they know that even the solution that they're leaning towards is not perfect, but I think it's the one that they feel is fairest to all of us. So please understand that your criticisms are valid. Council needs to hear those, and they'll weigh all that in because they're struggling with this just like you're struggling with it. So with that, Andy, I think we're getting close to closure. Is there anything else we wanted to just tell in general for everybody?
Well, no, we don't have any other questions that came in, but as Mark mentioned, please feel free to continue to email those in, and we will respond to you to get back with an answer. Just wanted to also remind folks that the first reading on this at the Oshkosh Common Council is February 13th, and then the actual ordinance would go on February 27th.
Yeah, and that's the earliest that the council would consider this. I mean, we're anticipating action will be taken, but certainly if you feel one way or the other, let council know how you feel.
Okay, all right. Any other final thoughts, Mark?
I just want to thank the activity that we've received. Our biggest fear when we do one of these is that we get no Q&As. Over half the questions that we answered today were questions that came in during this broadcast. So I want to thank everybody for taking an interest in your city government. We are doing our very best to make sure we deliver quality services and improvements to the public. That's what you deserve as taxpayers. And we wrestle with these issues every single day, and getting your input helps us make better decisions that benefit you in the city of Oshkosh. So thank you, everybody, and look forward to hearing more of your questions and comments in the coming weeks.
And Mark, thank you very much for all your responses and information today. We appreciate it.
Happy to.
And thank you very much for your attention to this important topic. We encourage you to go to the Oshkosh Media YouTube page, where you'll find the recent public information meeting that was held at City Hall, and watch for replays of that meeting on Oshkosh Media Gov TV. Remember also to visit the city's website, the Hot Topics section, where you'll find more details about the proposed special assessments replacement plan. Thanks for joining us today.